Welcome to the Banter. My name's Lucas.
My name's Greg.
And we're super excited that you're here with us today, whether you're watching live with us on YouTube or Facebook, or you're catching the restream on the podcast channel, which is one of my favorite ways. I always listen to this on the way home. I re-listen to it because sometimes it's hard to focus on what we're talking about and then also focus on creating the podcast. So I always listen to it right on the way home.
Yeah. Yep. Time well spent.
Do you go back and listen to these?
Yeah, I do. I try to learn something every day.
Yeah,
so
that's right. Learn something new after I've taught it.
That's right. No, it's like, I could have done this or could have said that. Yeah.
So we're so excited that you're here. I'm Lucas. This is Greg. Greg's my father-in-law, and so we're in the same social bubble. And so even though Ottawa right now is in red zone, we still feel comfortable being in the same room, right beside each other, just kind of clearing that as a housekeeping item.
Yeah.
The Banter is all about helping you guys to kind of go from just taking in what we're talking about on Sundays to really trying to live it out in your lives. And so we dive deeper on some different subjects and just try to talk more kind of practically. And then also sometimes there's tough questions that come up during the teaching content that we release on Sundays as part of our worship experience. Some of those tougher questions that are maybe more complicated or would take longer to discuss or have a nuance, we just like to use the Banter podcast to talk through those. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great launch into carrying on these conversations with your friends, carrying them on in your life group, all those kinds of experiences. So
exactly.
Good next step.
This has been a really fun series that we've been in. Fun is maybe not the best word. We've been talking about mental health and what it looks like to overcome some of the struggles that we go through in life, mentally, just like how Jesus overcame struggles at the end of his life, starting with, through his whole life he had struggles, but he overcame heroically. And we started in chapter 13 of John, and so we were looking at Jesus' last life as he's leading up to the crucifixion and ascension, and he went through a ton, the most extremely difficult time, and still put his trust in the Father and overcame all these feelings. And so we're trying to learn from Jesus. That's really what it's all about.
Yeah, for sure.
But before we get into that, how was your weekend?
It was good. We had a couple of birthday celebrations.
That's right.
Yours included.
Yep.
So that was
the big 3-0. My goodness.
55 double nickels.
Now you can do all the 55 plus stuff.
That's right. I'm hoping I get discounts at stores from now on. So
I feel like they keep dropping the seniors discount. It would be 45.
You may be able to get it now that you're 30. That sounds pretty old.
Go to Shoppers on a Thursday.
That's right.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
Yeah, it was fun. What did you get a special gift for your birthday?
Got some basically gift cards for Home Depot, Canadian Tire, stuff like that. So I can set up my shop in the basement. We're still working on getting our house in order and all that kind of thing. And actually a lot of the weekend was spent when I wasn't partying it up at the birthday parties. I was putting locks on drawers and setting up everything for Julie to get launched with her daycare thing, which she
a brand new cabinetry, and you had to put holes
in everything.
Oh my word!
Yeah. A few tears were shed.
Yeah. I got some workout gear. My wife Taryn and I are going into a new season, a refreshed season of working out properly, which we've done over the years, but I really slacked off last year.
We should have got you to model it.
Yeah.
Right here, right now.
And now you can see. So that was exciting. I always feel like a new pair of shoes makes you feel really good about working out. And I wake up early and work out. Today I was working out at 5:30. So I was eating at 5 o'clock. So it's fun. It's fun times. And you just feel more solid when you have proper equipment.
Yeah. I'm hoping to get my treadmill back together. That's one of the things that was not as high on the priority list, but it's getting back up there.
Where are you where will you put that in your house?
In the basement. Thankfully, the roof or the ceiling is high enough that I won't be smacking my head every time I take a step. Nice. Down in the back room, out of the way.
Yeah.
So
out of the way, out of sight, out of mind. but got to keep it on the mind so that you actually use it.
There you go. Well, it's on the way to my shop, so I'll see it a lot. So.
Yeah, it's like permission to pass.
That's right.
Got to spend some time on the treadmill.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So this last Sunday, you guys probably joined us. Hopefully you joined us for the Church Online experience on Sundays at 9 o'clock. It's brookside.online.church for the future. Just 9 o'clock on Sundays. That's where we kind of gather virtually to check out the worship service that Brookside has put together. We talked about anxiety and overcoming anxiety. You brought this message to us from example from Jesus' life and how he overcame, and some practical tips on how we can overcome. And so that was a great message. You guys can go back to the YouTube channel and check that out. There's also another podcast that you can check out too. All of that information's at mybrookside.church /sermons. I think it's all there.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that keeps coming up in this series is this concept that, like, as Christians, even if we accept that mental health exists, which pro tip, it does.
That one's free.
Yeah. Some people feel guilty or like ashamed of having a bad day because they've maybe been told that Christians need to put their trust in God and be happy all the time. And this is, I hear this pretty often. I've been hearing it a lot lately from our church members. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to just ask, like, why do we feel guilty sometimes for feeling anxious, and like, where's that come from, and how can we kind of work through that as well?
It's a great question. A couple of answers come to mind, or at least a couple of sources come to mind. One is just our own assumptions. I think it's easy for us to get this feeling of, especially if I'm a follower of Jesus and I've got the Holy Spirit in me and he's a spirit of joy and peace, everything should be great. It should just be clear sailing and nothing should affect me. I should always be happy. And the Bible always encourages us. Jesus says, don't be worried, don't be anxious. But the reason he says it is because we are. It's something that's there in our lives. Jesus modeled it. We talked about that on Sunday. Like, he was in the garden getting ready for his arrest and his crucifixion. He wasn't like, oh, this is going to be awesome. I'm just feeling top of the world here. He was like in agony. And this partially it's our own kind of assumption that, I shouldn't feel this way. And if that's something you struggle with, let it go. Like, do not feel ashamed or sad or anxious about being anxious. So kind of drop that. Another source is other people. And actually, a lot of church environments are notorious for putting this blanket of shame on anybody who is not fine. Yeah. And so anytime you see somebody, how are you doing? I'm fine. My life is falling apart, but I'm not going to say that part. Everything's fine. Yeah. And that's nuts. So we need to recognize that own voice within ourselves. We need to reject that. It's like, no, it's okay. That's one of the things, again, we talked about. Be real, be honest with what you're feeling. And we need to allow each other to be able to do that. So when we ask somebody, how are you doing? Like, be ready for the possibility that they may say, you know what, this is a really hard day. I'm really struggling right now. Yeah. And to not judge and to not whatever, because tomorrow may be your bad day, or maybe you're having one at the same time too. Yep. It's nowhere are we told that we're not going to struggle. To me, it's kind of like our experience with temptation. So often we can feel like, I've been tempted, therefore I'm a loser, therefore I'm a failure, so I might as well just give in to it now anyway. Wow, yeah. And it's like, no, like the problem is not that you were tempted right there. It's what do you do with it? How do you respond to it? That will either determine, you know what, I'm going to handle this well. I'm feeling tempted right now, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to eat that, apple fritter sitting on the table or whatever it is, or it's like, I feel like I want it, so I'm going to have it now. Well, no, you don't have to. So there's that kind of thing at play too.
I think sometimes we want and I've noticed this as we've walked through this, we want like an easy answer that works every single time, or that you'd kind of implement to your life one time and it covers you for the rest of your life. Like, if I just do this really precise thing, then I'll never feel anxious again, for example. But what I'm learning is that it's really continual surrender to Jesus and remaining in his love and counting back the promises of God and just trusting him. But that happens moment by moment by moment, by day, by year, by season,
exactly.
Over and over and over.
Yeah. And one of the things we started off with was on Sunday was this idea that we ought to expect difficulty. We ought to expect days. Like it shouldn't, on top of the feeling of either anxiety or worry, what we should hopefully, or what we can hopefully get away from is the sense of, I can't believe this is happening to me.
Yeah.
I can't believe that I'm worrying. I can't
So
believe
that thought, that I can't believe it, isn't what the Bible teaches.
No.
But
not at all.
For some reason, we think that it is.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit about the difference between kind of a statement like that being kind of a kind of coming across like a kind of a harsh command, or as an invitation. When he says "don't worry," he's not saying, you bonehead, cut it out, you loser. He's like, there's a better way. Come, like let me show you why you don't need to worry.
Yeah.
And often we're like trying to figure out how to stop, and what we really need to do is just come to Jesus and dump it out all on him and let him handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's another one. Jesus always has and the gospel writers record him specifically saying like these two-liners, like, come to me, all who are weary, and I'll give you rest. But it starts with people who are weary. Yeah. Right. It starts with, well, you are weary, and then also come to me. Not, I just think it's important to look at it really holistically. Yeah.
It's not like, how dare you be weary?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, join my team. You'll never be weary.
Yeah.
Huh. Very good.
Very cool.
So I hope that's encouraging to you, because I hear that a lot from even people in our church today. Like the other day I was hearing this, and it's like, we want to help people to understand that, like, it's okay to feel these things and also go to Jesus with those feelings. So that's your goal for even this
He's
week.
not surprised. He's not going to be going, what do you mean you're worried?
Yeah.
It's like, of course I know that.
Yeah. One of the other scriptures that you quoted, and this is all throughout the scriptures, in fact, it's a huge capstone of the New Testament, is when Jesus came, he brought with him a whole new kingdom, which means that there's kind of a new mindset that he wants us to adopt in our life. So the kingdom mindset, so he says, my kingdom's not of this world. It was John. You can probably quote it better than I did, because he...
Yeah, well, he was talking about how his like Pilate was basically saying, you've been abandoned by everybody. Like, what's going on? Like, even the rulers and Jesus said, you know what? My kingdom's not of this world. If it was, my followers would protect me. They would, like, Jesus could call a whole legion of angels to come in and wipe out his enemies. Yeah. Boom, like in an instant. He said, no, but my kingdom's not of this world. Yeah.
So for us practically, who are followers of Christ, who believe that Jesus is God and we put our faith in him, we're called to adopt that kind of mindset of, like, we're here on earth living in this world, but we also are part of a different family, a part of a different kingdom altogether. And so how can we kind of live that out in our day-to-day life, remembering that we're not part of this kingdom, but part of Jesus' kingdom?
Yeah, another great question. What I often think about in regard to this is the idea of being an ambassador. An ambassador is somebody who is a citizen of one country living in another country as a representative of the country that they're from.
Right.
And there's all kinds of things that they do, but that's the basic idea. I am here as an ambassador, a representative of this other country. I'm living here and I'm over there. And I was thinking, if I was born into that family, an ambassador's family, like my dad's family is from Scotland, my mom's family is from Poland. Pick one of those. Like say Poland. My family was here as ambassadors from Poland. Then I'm growing up here. I'm in Canada, and at some point, as I'm growing up, I realize, you know what? I'm actually a citizen of another country. We're here in Canada as representatives of the Polish government.
Explains the pierogies.
Yes, yeah. There's many things it explains.
So you come to a realization
Yeah.
that you're actually representing a different country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're in one, but you're representing the other. You have the resources of the other.
Right.
As an ambassador, you actually have authority given to you to act on behalf of your country.
And a mission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for us as followers of Jesus, we are living in this world. We live in Canada, or if you're listening from wherever you're listening, you're living in a particular country. But if you have been born into God's family, then you have been born into a family that is on mission. We are ambassadors in the places that we are to represent our Father, to represent His kingdom, to His rule and reign. And so as we go about our day here, it should be more than just, oh, I'm part of that family, forget about it, don't do anything. It's like, I ought to be living my life in a way that shows that I'm representing well. It's like, well, what does a good representative of Jesus live like? How do they act? What do they do? All those kinds of things. And there's so much that we can dig into.
I think we actually dug into that a whole ton. We had a whole series called Represent.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That was last year.
Yeah.
I think.
Or early.
I
guess it must have been last year because we're just in March now. So.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So Represent, so that's a great callback. So you can go to the YouTube channel or our sermon archive, wherever you want to find that, and find the Represent series, because that's a really important piece of being a Christian. Is like we talked about that the very first Banter, how this conversation, as we talk through how to deal and how to overcome as Christians, it is going to look different than people who are not part of God's family. So like our call, our mission, even the way we approach life, everything is different because we're part of this other kingdom living here. So that's really, really interesting. That's been a really big learning curve for me, even through this series.
Yeah, I think it is for all of us. I look at the way Jesus lived, and even in that moment when he was standing before the Roman authority that had the power to either release him or have him executed.
Yeah.
If Jesus was living for this world, he would have done his boom power grab thing, and he would have wiped them all out, and he would have sat on the throne of Pilate, and he would have said, hey, I'm the top dog now. You guys do what I want you to do here. And he's like, no, I'm actually going to die for you, to serve my Father and to serve the kingdom of God. I'm willing to let go of the things here.
Yeah.
I'm going to sacrifice all of that for the sake of seeing other people brought into the kingdom.
Wow.
It's like, wow, that's
Yeah.
If we can live that way, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it reminds me of all the things we could model our lives after Christ. So sure, we can model overcoming anxiety. We can model overcoming sadness and sorrow and depression, and we can do all these things. But if there was one thing I wanted every Christian to model, it would be this like self-sacrificing love. Because that is his love for us. And that's the greatest commandment, right?
Yeah. Peter tells us that that's the example that Jesus left for us.
Yeah.
And he calls us to follow in his steps.
Yeah.
Becoming a follower of Jesus doesn't mean we're accepting some ideas about God and some theological concepts.
Yeah.
When you dig down to the core, it means I'm now following somebody who willingly gave his life to rescue other people.
Yeah.
And that's what it means to follow Jesus. Giving your life now, investing your life now to rescue other people.
Yeah.
And it's the best life. It's like we're giving it away and we're getting it back in spades.
Yeah. Really excited to bring to you our Easter service coming up this week. Obviously, Easter normally around here is kind of like we have a whole kind of extra special stuff. But with COVID and being in the red zone especially, we're having another church service. And it's going to be special, not because of the things that we're doing. We talked about this before we started recording. We're not making this service special because of all the neat things we're doing and fireworks. Imagine we had fireworks. Okay, no fireworks. It's special
We can get
because
some like CGI'd into the background here.
Okay, Jim, take note.
Yeah, that's right.
It's special because we're celebrating Jesus' love and his enormous sacrifice. So every year, like, this is my favorite time of year because we get to celebrate not only like the sadness surrounding and the grief surrounding his death, but like the victory he had. I was explaining it to my son, who's like almost 5, and I was like, so Jesus died, and then he fought death and won, and then he came back and he's alive. And like when you put it in like such easy terms, it's like, that is worth celebrating. That's so amazing.
Yeah.
And so no one, like, you don't have to die. Like, you don't have to, because death has been defeated.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And great reminder that the Christian faith is not just about a bunch of ideas.
Right.
It's about a historical fact.
Yeah.
Jesus did die. Jesus did rise from the grave.
Yeah.
And because of that, Paul talks about that 1 Corinthians 15. Because of that fact, we have hope.
Yeah.
And we've got something worth sharing.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So hopefully you can join us again, 9:00 on brookside.online.church on Sundays. And we would love to see, it's basically a video in one side and then a live chat in the other side. And you can just like talk with us in the chat as we're kind of learning and worshiping together. And it's a great time.
Amen.
So,
Amen. Excited for it.
Hopefully you can join us there. Thanks for watching and listening to the Banter, and we will see you in the next episode.
See you around.